let's go to the product page. The link is available on the upper right corner. Only registered users may access their credit line. However, we may remain on guest status if we'd merely like to browse products or add them to our shopping cart. We'll only need to log in once we've added one or more products to the cart and wish to check out, meaning to make a purchase. Displayed are 3 list boxes. The first one, called Primary Type, will list all items appearing on the Primary Types database table. Now, let's take a look at the code behind the scenes. We can examine the steps taken by the application to first withdraw data from the Primary Types database table by using an SQL query. Then, assuming some data rows have been retrieved, the application will add them in, one by one, to the Primary Type list box. Now, we are going to select, separately, a few primary type items, one after another. We will notice a tooltip that's popping up as we hover the mouse over the primary type list box. This tooltip tells us to only select a single primary type item at a time. We may also notice a label just underneath the primary type list box, and similar labels underneath the other 2 list boxes. Each label will display the currently selected item on the list above it. As soon as we select a primary type item called development, for example, and the application detects that, it will look it up in the secondary types database table in order to find any secondary type items that have the selected primary type ID. As we look at the code, we realize that upon product page postback, we will be calling a listbox handling function. Our first order of business would be to take the currently selected index from the primary type listbox. We will then use it in order to withdraw very specific secondary type items from the secondary types database table. This time, the SQL query will only look for the ones whose primary type ID field has a value corresponding to that of the selected primary type item's listbox index. Then, assuming some data rows have been retrieved, the application will add them in, one by one, to the secondary type list box. Back to user mode. As we select a primary type item, any corresponding secondary type items will appear on the secondary type list box. Same goes for the next example. A primary type item with a selected index of 5 will have only secondary type items with a primary type ID of 5 appear on the secondary type list box. A secondary type list box tooltip is asking to select a single item at a time. Here, the selected primary type item index is 3, so all secondary type items with a primary type ID of 3 will appear on the secondary type list box. Next, we realize that slightly different mechanism takes care of the click and list behavior of the second and third list boxes. As we pick an item on the secondary type list box, the application will, this time, use its selected index in order to extract its in object, previously saved, of table, secondary type ID, thus be able to list all of the third type items, which are really software product titles, on the third, namely, product, list box. Looking at the code, we will, again, be calling our listbox handling function upon product page postback. Has the primary type selected index changed? No. Has the secondary type selected index changed? Yes. The application will use the secondary type currently selected index in order to extract the in-object secondary type ID. The application will then take that secondary type ID and add it to an SQL query designed to withdraw the corresponding items from the products database table. Then, assuming some data rows have been retrieved, the application will add them in, one by one, to the product list box. Back to user mode. As we select a secondary type item, any corresponding verb or product type items will appear on the product list box. Same goes for the next example. A secondary type item with a selected index of 0, which really means that it is the first one on the list, and with an in-object secondary type ID of 8, will have only product type items with a secondary type ID of 8 appear on the product list box.